The Marching Roundtable is proud to be an official media partner of Drum Corps International.
Thanks for coming to the Marching Roundtable YouTube channel, sharing great information to help you succeed in all the marching arts. While you're here, we hope you'll subscribe.
And I wanted to read this quote really quickly because this is on our show sheet. But I found this at some point, and the design team were like, "Oh my gosh, this like speaks to our show." And it's by this gentleman by the name of John Laughlin, and he says, "As shadows weave through the timeless streets of the Vieux Carre, history awakens, and the past dances gracefully with the present, casting a spell that enchants the soul." And I feel like that is a really great depiction of what our show is. It is about soul and the souls and the city of New Orleans, but in this really cool journey in the middle of the night that takes you crazy like you're drinking too many Vieux Carres.
Greetings from DCI. This is Drum Corps International staff wishing Marching Roundtable and Tim Hinton the very, very best on your 1,000th episode. We're so grateful for everything that you have done for marching arts all around the world. Keep up the great work. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Marching Roundtable podcast. This is Tim Hinton, the beast of the marching arts. We're talking Mandarins and we're going to New Orleans, everybody. So this is going to be such a fun conversation. On the line tonight, Becca Anderson's here. Becca is the creative director. Becca, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you? So excited to be here.
Just hitting home runs year after year. It's been so much fun to be following along with what's going on with the Mandarins. The core director is with us, JW Koester. JW, how are you?
I'm doing great, Tim. And as always, we love our fun and exciting, engaging conversations with you. So we are ecstatic to be here.
That is so nice. I always look forward to talking to you guys. And Vince Oliver, the brass arranger and composer, is with us. Vince, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having us, by the way, Tim.
Of course. Well, Vince gets extra points because he is calling in from Japan, and it's actually the next morning for him. So, Vince, thank you so much for being with us. Can you tell us briefly what you were doing over there?
Yeah. So this is the first Japanese blast tour in 10 years of the original show. So I have the privilege of being the music director for this project, and we're actually starting tech rehearsals today. And in a week and a half-ish, they're going to be opening and then heading to Tokyo for a couple weeks and then going on tour. So we're excited.
Congratulations. How exciting. And wow, what a feather in your cap. That's just incredible. So everybody, I can say that I knew him. I know him. Every time I get to talk to you, like you famous people, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm on the line with the Mandarins. Anyway, I like everybody that I know, I love New Orleans. I mean, like, I've had some great times there. I love being there. I love everything about the energy of the city. There's all the spooky stuff. There's all the fun stuff. So I'm enjoying spending time with the Mandarins there as well. Am I on the right track here? Like, are we specific to New Orleans, or what are we doing?
The whole show, I think what some people don't even know is that it's based on the story called The Witching Hour in the Big Easy. So it's technically, the whole show takes you on a journey that happens at night. And
Love it.
For most people, maybe they do know, it's a well-known fact that it's one of the most haunted places in the world, so to speak, right? If you believe in those things. And so it's kind of this journey of what happens in the middle of the night, and we get transformed back into the 1920s in New Orleans, and this whole spectacle happens. So it's not necessarily a literalism of just having a party in New Orleans. It's a journey of one night of one guy that starts by himself today, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's transported, and it takes us through kind of this 4 or 5 part journey through the witching hour. So when you hear the clock bells in the beginning, that's kind of symbolizing that it's late at night, and boom, we have this big reveal in the beginning, and you see the entire, elegance of the 1920s.
It's super fun. It's just super fun. And I mean, who doesn't want to spend time in the New Orleans, even at night when it's spooky? And my husband loves ghost stories and spooky stuff. And when we went to New Orleans for a week, we went on multiple ghost tours. We did every spooky tour of every creepy place there was. So I know all about this world that you're talking about, and I feel like you take us there. It's really, really interesting. Now, there's a drink that is the name of the. So let's talk about this. Is it okay to talk about alcohol on a DCI podcast? I think it is.
It's your podcast.
Yeah, I agree. It's your podcast.
Well, I mean, I
so
did
Tim,
a little
if
research and all, but I mean, I have to.
there.
Do what
You take
now?
us there, we can go there. So it's your podcast.
Well,
So
it's
if
a
you
very-
want to venture into that part of the world, we're going to go with you.
You know, if I really did this right, I would have the drink right here with me. I feel bad that I missed that opportunity. But I tell you what, the next time I watch you guys, I will make sure that is the case. I shouldn't be saying this live on a recording. Anyway, let's talk about this. Why this title?
Vieux Carre. So we actually did some research and tried to look at what were some different interesting titles in the area that wasn't just, we didn't want to just call it the Witching Hour and the Big Easy. And yeah, a lot of people know the drink, but it was more of something that was popular in the area that people knew about. And when we were talking about Old New Orleans, and we came across the fact that it actually stands for Old Quarter or Old Square, then it just kind of fit because that's where we went. We went back in time to what, it was over a century ago. So it just seemed to fit, and all of the announcers are doing a great job with it. I know everybody thought that they weren't going to get it right, but it's been really great. So it's working out. We're even getting people rolling their R's and getting right into it.
Oh, I love it. That's great. So, I mean, I guess I jumped ahead a little bit, but like, where did this, like, was somebody in New Orleans and going like, hey, or like, I mean, this is very on brand for Mandarins, this whole night, spooky New Orleans, like it all fits perfectly into what I think that you guys have been doing. But like, I'm interested in where this idea came from.
Oh man, I feel bad because I'm the only one talking. I had been looking for something that was going to fit where the drum corps was going. And I remember telling quite a few people this, that Vince and I actually were standing last year in spring training listening to the brass play a piece that was arranged for Family Day that the brass came out and played. And I had never heard them play the way that they did that day with this beautiful, sassy, jazzy piece that they did. And it blew me away. And so I knew going into this season when trying to find a show, I wanted to try to find something that kind of fit that realm where the brass caption heads were definitely taking it, and Rick and Brian's flair. And then Vince had actually suggested some of the Wynton Marsalis pieces before we even decided on the show. And it was perfect. And then I came across just this idea of the Witching Hour and what isn't pageantry about New Orleans? And there were so many things to take from it. So it felt like the right fit. It felt like a sophisticated idea that was bigger than what we had been in the past, but still something that we could really be the Mandarins and just take it to another level.
Yeah, and absolutely like familiar to people too. Like everybody knows what this is immediately, and they're bringing that to it. So Vince, let's talk about this. Like, how much fun to be working on with this music?
Oh, just, there's so many different styles. And I will be honest with you, I think I've thrown away more music for this show than I actually made it to the show that, made it to the actual page, just because there's so much to, like source material to go from. Just within the Marsalis material alone that we're using, both of those pieces are like an hour long each. And so to find the moments that we want to use for our purposes was kind of excruciating, actually, like just, figuring out what to use and what not to use. But, just the sources are so rich and fun. And yeah, and to speak to Becca's point, Rick Brown, one of our brass caption heads, just got his doctorate in jazz studies. And so it's like a natural sort of progression, I think, for us to play to his strengths. But also kind of, keep our identity. And we talk a lot about honesty as a design team with our choices. And I think particularly the Marsalis material in the show felt like a great step for us. And, there's so much sophistication in it, but it also has like, all of the colorful elements that people love to listen to. So it was a lot of fun, but it was, the challenge is just figuring out what to keep and what to, what you have to toss away.
Okay, so you mentioned honesty in the design team. Tell me, what do you mean by that exactly? Like, how does that manifest? What are you being honest about?
It's our choices, and it's our choices with what we're excited about, what we're inspired by, but kind of more importantly, actually, definitely more importantly, is like, what are our members and our educational team, what's going to resonate with them, and when they are performing the show, are they approaching it with a sense of like kind of joy that comes from inside, as opposed to like they're trying to manifest joy like as a character or something like that. With our style of design, I think that it just comes from a place of this is great music, and this is great movement, and this is a great concept, and we really believe in it. And that kind of starts with our initial choices. One of the things too, I'd like to kind of highlight this is like, I think initially we were discussing that we didn't want this show to be Cinderman Part 2. And, we didn't want this to feel like we were trying to recreate what we did last year, because there was so much excitement with that show and it was wonderful. But this one, we wanted to have its own personality, but still kind of be on brand with what we feel like the Mandarins do well, and what our unique voice is. And so I think all of that combined is, led to our choices with this. And I'll say that, like, when Becca pitched the initial witching hour idea, there was so much excitement with the other designers. I mean, we just feel like you knocked it out of the park with this. Like, this is so rich and colorful, and it, there's so much that we can do with it. So when we have reactions like that, that's kind of like that honesty that we're talking about, because it's obviously an inspired place to start from, which you always kind of want to start from a design perspective.
JW, what did you think when you heard this?
Well, and to going back to the honesty aspect of it, it's doing what we want to do. I mean, obviously we're a competitive activity, and there's some things that we need to take into consideration for that. But we've got to design a show, and I want the designers to create the show that they are excited about, like Vince said, that they want to be, because then they're buying into it. And once they buy into it, the instructional staff, the caption heads, the instructors, they buy into it. And so that's where part of that honesty has to come from, is we've got to do what's right for us, putting that show out there that is exciting, that the audience loves. I mean, we're not going to give that up. We are not going to take that element out because we want to satisfy some other aspects of the activity. We want to be sophisticated, like Becca said, and we want the audience to have fun with it, and let them get engaged, and let them decide the end of the story. Was it real? Was he did he have a few Vieux Carre drinks, or did something really actually happen? We let the audience decide that. And so that's the cool thing with what this team does so well. And I really love that word of honesty. We're being honest and open with ourselves. And I think when we do that, the show automatically is going to be exciting. It's going to be challenging, super sophisticated. I'm sure Beck and Vince will talk more about the layers of the sophistication, and it's competitive. So we're able to combine all those things. When Becca first pitched it, I'm going, so we're doing Mardi Gras? And then she immediately pretty much slapped me and said, "No, JW, we're not doing Mardi Gras. It's so much more. It's not Mardi Gras. Yes, we have a Mardi Gras aspect in it, with it, but it's not about Mardi Gras. It's all about the moods and the textures and the spookiness of everything." And so once I broke the code with that, then okay, team, go. Okay, and I, talk about, you let the horses loose to go run, and that's what they do. And then I just sit back and enjoy watching the creative process, because first of all, it's way beyond me. I am not a part of the creative process. Once or twice they ask, "Are you okay with this, JW?" And I go, "Absolutely, yes, keep going." And then I just get out of their way.
Very smart. So,
and we love that about
what I think you guys constantly prove, what you guys constantly prove is, like, you can elevate and sophisticate any idea and like turn it into something with layers, sophistication, layers of meaning, I feel like you guys are great at doing that. Like it's accessible, but it's also got all the sophisticated stuff. And because New Orleans can go really cheesy really fast, and obviously you guys made all the right choices, but you approached it from a sophisticated place, obviously. But I don't know, I just wanted you to speak to that because I feel like a lot of people shy away from themes that they love because they feel like, oh well, that's not gonna get, and you guys are proving them wrong about that, I think.
It's funny because the last 2 years could have really gone that way with Cinderman and with this show. And that was a huge topic of discussion at the very beginning with the pitch, because we wanted to make sure that at no point did we pass that threshold of this is cheesy, this is trite. So the ideas have to have legs, and how we can just have, if there's a million little things that can support it, and then you pick what are the most important things, and you all agree, and there's people in the room that say no, no, I don't think that that's a good idea. Yes, I do think that that's going to be cheesy. That's what's great about this team, is that we have plenty of people on the team that are very easily okay with saying, no, that's not great. And for the last 4 years, I have produced 2 ideas every year, and it's always the second idea. And it was because it had so much legs, and we knew that it wasn't going to be cheesy, which was so cool. And I loved how excited they were. And I want to go back to the excitement factor of the design team, because the most nervous part every year is always telling everybody what the show is. It starts with the design team, then it goes to the caption heads, then it's the staff a week before move in, and then it's the kids, the members. And I've never seen them more excited than they were that first day telling them about the show. I mean, just screaming and yelling. It was the craziest experience. So it's true, the authenticity of them buying in was there, and they still have that. They love performing this show, which is just awe-inspiring. I'm really excited to see where they take it in the next month, because they're settling in, which is really cool to watch, way sooner than this drum corps ever has. I mean, we're already talking about performance. It was July 1st, and we were talking about the emotional aspect. I don't think we've ever done that since I've been here. I don't know, until late. So it's exciting to see.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I have to tell you, I say this every year when I talk to you guys, but Becca, you just described an atmosphere for the design team and the staff that is safe, comfortable, everybody's voice is welcome. And that's why this is working, is because you and your team are creating this atmosphere where everybody feels like they can say, oh man, I don't know. Like that is so valuable. And there are so many places where that atmosphere and safe environment is not put in place. And I think it's so key to your success.
And really, Tim, it's encouraged. We need to do that, because with the way we take the shows, or where we want to take the shows, we need this. We need designers to say, no, that doesn't feel right. It's not the right texture. It's not the right mood. It's not the right this or that. So we can go back and say, well, okay, well, let's back up a step or two, and let's make a right-hand turn here. Let's do that. And for me, that's one of the things that Vince really brings has brought to our design team in particular, where because somebody will throw an idea out and everybody's going, I don't know, I don't get it. And then Vince goes, well, what if we do this? And he will merge 2 completely separate ideas and morphs them into something else, a third idea, really. And then the design team goes, whoa, didn't think of that, but that's what we wanted. But it does start with everybody being comfortable and saying no. And like I say, I think if you will, it's an expectation that you want to be part of the design team. You got to be willing to say no, it doesn't fit right for me. Vince, what are your thoughts on that? Because you're the newest member of the team, really, so you can share that perspective.
Well, no, I think our chemistry is a big. Well, first of all, chemistry in design teams and in design environments is so important, and I think that can't be understated. And with our chemistry, the makeup is very, what can I do to help you, or very, we don't necessarily have like hard lines between us. The percussion guys aren't trying to win their caption and like, fighting for it tooth and nail or anything like that. A lot of the best musical ideas actually come from Peter Becca, our drill writer. And so, we all feel comfortable enough with each other to have opinions that don't necessarily stick within our own responsibilities or disciplines, but we trust each other, and we know that it always comes from a place of respect and wanting the big picture, like the upstairs, the global, what the show feels like and what we want it to say. Like that's the priority, and we kind of start there collectively, and we understand that, I think, without actually saying it. And I think that's really important. And I would say that like our instructional staff is much the same way, in that there's a lot of collaboration, and there's not a ton of people kind of fencing themselves off and only worrying about their little piece or something like that. It's how can I help you? What can I do to support you to get better? I think that's really healthy and an important part of our process and environment.
Well, it's clearly working, and I love that you guys have that kind of environment, because it's creating these products and situations and atmospheres for the whole core that are clearly contagious and exciting. To shift gears just a little bit, I'm so happy that you're wearing hats. Like, I just think they look so good and they're so perfect. But is there anything to say about how those were chosen?
Just taking it back to the style, we loved the hats last year, and that was a whole part of the show. And
yeah,
I felt like it fit again this year with the 20s style. I mean, you look at guys in zoot suits, and they all had hats. Everybody wore a hat in the 20s.
Yeah,
so
it takes you right to that time. I mean, it's very clearly does that for you, no doubt.
Totally a period piece, but last year we didn't have straps on them, so we had lots of hats flying off when it was windy. So we fixed that this year, and we have the hats. So it's been great. We love the look, and the core loves it too.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It certainly takes you right to the time period and immediately defines what you're doing, which I think is really smart. But I love hats on the field, and I miss them. So whenever they're there, I just always makes me really happy.
Well, and our uniform company, Creative Costuming and Design, was just so proactive. I mean, and once Beck started talking with them about what the concept was and whatnot, they immediately got their design team engaged and involved and talking. Okay, what about colors? What's this? What are we looking for? And whatnot. I mean, so they were just a huge part of. I mean, obviously creating the uniforms, the costumes. They're costumes nowadays, I guess, right, Becca? But in terms of being that, they are very, very involved. They're not just sitting back waiting for us to say, here's what we want. They were a part of creating the what we want. And so I don't know if they did the hats. I'm pretty sure it was Becca. I'm sure, because she is always on top of that. But I just wanted to do a shout out to them, because they are so proactively involved with doing the design and making changes and giving lots and lots of sketches to Becca. Is this the look you wanted? Is this the texture you wanted? So in a sense, they're actually an extension of our design team. And even, if you will, our Mapex, the drum folks, Becca and Taha reaching out to the Mapex folks, John Harwell, and saying, well, this is what we're looking. And he went out and did a custom design for the battery, the shells, the blue, the tapering of the blue and whatnot. That's not a standard design or a choice, I should say, for a drum color. They came up with that for us. John was, Becca, tell me more, and then he went off and worked with the factory to come up with that custom color. So, the design team, we do have some extended partners with the design team to help create that total effect. And even the next step is obviously with all of our props, our stages. It's not just, getting the facade, and how that was done and made. And then, have you seen the show, Tim?
Only on video, unfortunately. But
okay, on video, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
can't wait to see it live, but I'm you know,
You're
for
gonna
now.
love it, and you need to be on that 50-yard line, and we're gonna rip your face off. But anyway, sorry, different thing.
Counting on that.
But working with DPG, again, another one of our partners, to do those custom vinyls for the background. So that's what I also like about what we're doing, is that our partners, they enjoy being involved with the design process. They're not just saying, "Oh, really, Becca? Oh." They're saying, "Really, Becca? What else? What else do you need?" So it's kind of a neat family type exposure, or atmosphere that we have.
Sure. So am I right, Becca, that at one point they're wearing masks, right?
Yes, these masks.
Love it. So are those, I mean, do they have to learn how to, like, are they at all taking out some vision, and like, is that an issue for the show?
So we actually had to have multiple masks custom made, which we were lucky enough that our CEO is an optometrist, and we have our performers that wear glasses, and so he was able to custom make some masks that actually sit over top of their face and their glasses, so that they can still have them and wear them and see. And but we had to custom fit every single mask to every person's face. So this is, and for those of you listening, you can't see at home, but I'm holding up a mask, and this is just one shape. There's about 6 different shapes, and we had to go through every performer in the drum corps, because everybody wears them. And there's an entire mask reveal. It's like this voodoo person comes out, controls the stage, and then everybody has their masks on. And so there's only so many sizes. So if your eyes sit certainly in a certain way, they can't see full in them at all. And they wear them for more than half the show, because they wear them for our entire basically opening production, which is basically half the show. They take them off for the ballad, and then they put them back on for the ending, for what's called Fat Tuesday's Dawn, which kind of takes you through the Mardi Gras vibe. But so it's an added challenge that I don't think people realize.
Very cool. But I mean, as a former band director and drill guy, I'm like, well, there's one more piece of difficulty added to the production, because I mean, it's got to impede your view in some way.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Everybody was custom fitted. Very cool. And made for classes. That's all really neat stuff. I like that.
It was crazy. Our admin was awesome. It was literally the first 3 days of learning the show, and they were taking people one at a time, and we made everybody try on every single mask, so that they could make sure, and they would, process of elimination. Can I see? Does it fit? All that stuff.
Cool.
It was a fun task. Yeah.
I love it.
And then the glittering started.
Yes, and then the glittering. we custom made all of the masks. We bought them, and then we custom bedazzled them, so to speak.
Well worth the effort, and it's super cool. And the other thing that I will say is, like, I went into this thinking, well, I hope all the New Orleans-y stuff I like is there, like, and I know you don't want to be trite, you don't want to be corny, but like, I still, like, when the umbrellas came out, I was like, oh yeah, I wanted there to be umbrellas, and then there's lampposts, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad there's lampposts. So I mean, you did it, of course, and you presented it all in a sophisticated way. It all is done at a super high level, of course, but it all was very satisfying to me. Like, even watching on video, I was just like, oh, thank goodness. I really would have been sad if that wasn't there. So that had to be an interesting process for the team to figure out, like, okay, we really need to have these lampposts, but how are we going to do it and not make it stupid? And like, so that had to be really fun to figure out, how do you use the pieces that we expect, maybe in an unexpected way or something.
Yeah, and a new thing that we've added to the show with the lampposts too, which Peter did an absolutely brilliant job figuring out how to the point that with the lampposts, multiple times we've had judges say that they cannot figure out when they come out and where they come out, which is phenomenal, right?
That's what a compliment. Wow.
Every drill writer's dream, and every person's dream when you're putting the show together, that it's not a coordination issue, and then being able to use them, but they do turn on, and we actually just added that element this week, with the lights actually turning on in the show and staying on. So there, it's like the whole set is coming to life. You're in this new world, whatever that may be, whether it's the land of the dead or however you want to look at it, on the other side. And so everything comes to life. They start on the buildings, they start moving, but it is a really beautiful moment to watch, and how they compress, and once the lights are on, and how that draws focus, and it just changes the whole look of the stage, which is cool. And what was even, I wish people could have seen the video that came through to us when they put the lights on. It just happened to be at a rehearsal setting where there were no lights on the field. And so the lights started to turn on in this video. They looked like spotlights, because then of course I'm going, oh my gosh, are they so bright that it's going to be blinding? But it just happened to come off that way because of the sun setting. It was really beautiful. But yeah, it's a cool element. And we did a lot of research of what's in New Orleans, what can we add? The feathers, the masks, the lampposts, the ghosts. We've got these beautiful
Exactly.
spirits, and all of that, and even just removing the layers of clothing. There's a moment in the ballad where they're removing a piece of themselves that existed in the past, and they're almost saying goodbye to it. And as they realize they're in this other world, and seeing their loved ones. So we're also trying to make you cry and realize that, we have such variety with the beauty as well as the fun. And I think that's where the sophisticated elements really come in, if you dive deeper into what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Vince, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think musically, we kind of talked about the richness of the Marsalis material. The entire Marsalis family being from New Orleans was sort of like an obvious starting place. And then we took a look at so many different musicians from New Orleans to try to kind of narrow down our choices in terms of what could illustrate these different parts of the New Orleans culture. Becca mentioned the ghosts, and they have these funeral marches. These are like these parades, right? That to kind of celebrate people that have passed on, and so kind of finding music to illustrate those types of things was a lot of fun. It was challenging, but just because there's so much music out there. But it was a lot of fun to start to narrow down those choices and to I guess illustrate those elements musically.
Well, I appreciate how thoughtful you were and how long you struggled, because that's why it's so good. It's like you were really diligent and didn't make easy choices. And the fact that there's more music that you wrote on the cutting room floor, shall we say, that I just think that's all very cool. Yeah, that would be intimidating to start. Like, where do you start, and how do you figure out all the choices? But the Marsalis stuff is it's a very smart place to be starting from. All right. Anything else about the show that we haven't discussed that you wanted to make sure and mention?
That's a good one.
Well, there is one, Becca, right? Because our ballads. So Tim, you've been doing this with us the last couple of years, and our ballads the last couple of years have been pretty rowdy, pretty strong, pretty sassy.
Power ballad.
I think.
Power ballad.
Power. There we go. Thank you. Power ballad. And it was funny because Becca this year said, we need to be soft. We need to show that the Mandarins can be tender, if you will. Within what we are already doing. And I think that, it took the team a little while to figure out what would be the right selection to do that, to still be in texturally what we wanted to do with the show, where we were going, so from that standpoint, but then to get that right piece of music so Vince could then create that soft, tender moment. And I haven't seen the show on Flow yet, on video, so I don't know how it comes across there. But live, the sensitivity and the texture that is just so big and warm really is something that we haven't actually done the last couple of years in terms of how we approached doing it. And so that is something I don't know that a lot of people, they may sense it, but they don't catch why or what is different. But I do feel we did go in a whole new a new direction with the breadth of what we're able to do. We're still big and loud and sassy. We're gonna slap you. We can't say it. Sorry. We're really gonna rock you. We want you to be wow. And the opening statement is there, but then we get to the ballad, and I really feel it's like, oh my gosh, it's just kind of a warm hug type feeling that I think hopefully people are going to say that is different from the Mandarins, because
Yeah.
it certainly hits me that way.
I'll speak to that actually, JW, because you mentioned both parts of the show that basically use the same piece of music, which is the Sweet By and By material. And one thing we were talking about early on in the design process was one of the success of last year's show was the accessibility of our ballad and how familiar it was to people. Everyone knew Take Me to Church. And it was something that like the audience connected with. I think Smile too. Like we had all of these like things that were recognizable that made us accessible and that the audiences could connect with. We didn't want to do a pop tune, like a straight up pop tune in this show, because that didn't feel like it would fit into a New Orleans vibe without feeling like we're pandering, or there's like a sense of dishonesty about it, I guess, or disingenuousness. So the Sweet By and By melody, because it feels so rooted in like gospel, rooted in the church, obviously it that felt like a more honest choice of something that people can recognize. If you listen to the words, it speaks to the afterlife. It speaks about the afterlife, which is also something that is really tied into the show. So to use that as a through line where we kind of have this bluesy big band version of it in the beginning of the show, and then to bring it back in the agape, the ballad in that context, in a different treatment, I think is I think it's intellectual, but I think like there's an emotional component that people maybe they can't articulate, but it potentially and hopefully it's a moving musical choice that we're making there to kind of connect those ideas and to again speak to the concept through the music.
And it's a really cool thread, the way that Vince was able to do different treatments every single time you hear it in the show, which you hear it 4 times, if I'm remembering correctly, thinking through the show. It's our first impact, which is knock you out, hit you in the face. You hear it in a vocal that comes through going into the next production. So that's actually, synthetic. And then we hear it at the end of the ballad, which is absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. So that treatment is completely different than the first time that we hear it. And then the last time is during the funeral procession parade, where it's this trio that is paying homage to, that cute little ensemble that you're going to hear playing on the side of the road while we're doing this entire fun celebratory parade. But it's there as well. So you've got these treatments that are so different with the same piece of music, which I think is spectacular. And I love you, Vince, because you do such just a phenomenal job with that. And it's a really cool thread through the show. And I wanted to read this quote really quickly because this is on our show sheet. But I found this at some point, and the design team were like, oh my gosh, this like speaks to our show. And it's by this gentleman by the name of John Laughlin. And he says, as shadows weave through the timeless streets of the Vieux Carre, history awakens and the past dances gracefully with the present, casting a spell that enchants the soul. And I feel like that is a really great depiction of what our show is. It is about soul and the souls and the city of New Orleans, but in this really cool journey in the middle of the night that takes you crazy like you're drinking too many Vieux Carres.
Well, I think it's very cool, and I think it was a great idea, and I think it's been really beautifully implemented. And having that musical thread throughout is everything. Every show should have a theme that when you hear it at the end one last time, it feels familiar and wonderful. And I think you've accomplished that really in a very strong way. So hats off to Vince, you, and everybody else that made that happen. But yeah, I love it, and I think again, I feel you are doing what you're saying you're trying to do. I think, which is you're making it familiar. People are bringing a lot of what they know and think about it already. There's a lot of emotion to all of this, right? Certainly the music that we are bringing emotion to, but then the idea of the witching hour and losing someone and being lost and all these pieces of it. I think it's a great setup for a show, and I think that's why you're being so successful with it. Everybody's talking about the Mandarins this year, I mean, has been from the very beginning. Oh, that first impact, I've heard that a million times, so it's very cool. It's fun to be talked about, I'm sure. And you guys are you're knocking it out of the park. I really feel like super impressive.
It's
thanks so much.
These guys make it fun.
Well, we're all having fun with it, I think, for sure.
Well,
I can't wait for you to see it live.
You know what? Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Becca.
Oh, I just said I can't wait for him to see it live. So
I know.
Yeah.
It
is a fun show, and I think there is so much depth and sophistication with it that you could watch it multiple times and you're going to see new things every time.
Sure.
We've had even some of the staff, right? They'll watch the show. I mean, they know the show, but in a show that, where did that get added? Where did that come from? So this is the staff sees that. Parents, commenting on our Facebook parents page. I get so locked in, I forget to look over here, and then they finally say, "Oh, I looked to the right during this part of the show," and oh my gosh, so it's always fun watching and seeing people's reactions when even though they've seen the show, but they see it again, and then they see something new that they hadn't seen before, because there is so much you could almost argue, I'm not going to, but that we may actually have too much going on every once in a while. We don't, but I mean, but in terms of just, especially for the casual person who's only going to see the show once or twice, there will be so much that they will miss because we have so much going on. But I do think it's done in a very, very sophisticated way. It does give us a lot of on the competitive side, it gives the adjudicators a lot of things to view and for them to think about. We're not just standing still. We're doing choreo, and playing these crazy riffs. And then Peter is put, the musicians in some pretty crazy listing environments where you don't get to. Sorry, Vince, you're on the number one side, at midfield on the 20-yard line, and here we got somebody else on the number two side, front sideline on the 30-yard line. You don't get to listen to each other. As you're a former band director, but to put the musicians in those crazy listing environments from a staging standpoint, we want the judges to be looking at that saying, "Holy smokes, that is challenging," and then you add in again the choreo with, because you can't just stand there anymore and just, blow faces off. You got to be doing the choreo, you got to be dancing, you got to be moving at 180 beats a minute. You got to do all those things. And so it's not that we do that specifically. I think the design team doesn't say, okay, this is going to be a great, design moment or a great moment for the judges to go, wow, look at those layers. We do that because that's how we want the show to come off. But it is useful when we are going into critiques and whatnot with the judge. You know what, and it's okay to call them out and say, you missed that. We hope when you see it again, take a look at this, because there is so much more. Just as an audience member, there's so much more. Don't just fixate on number one side. Look over to the right, number two side,
Sure.
Back sideline, and see something like that. So it's an interest. We have so much to offer for everybody. How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. And all the great drum corps shows, or all the great marching shows in general, have all these layers, and they're there for us to explore. And that's why it's fun to see the shows multiple times and follow throughout the season. And of course, things get added and changed. And so we're going to keep paying attention. It's going to get deeper and deeper and more interesting things to see. You're not going to get bored with this show. I can't imagine it. Vince, what do you want to say? I'm sorry, what, Becca?
I was like, and it keeps changing. It keeps because it takes so long to develop these shows. I mean, I shouldn't say it's changing. It's being finished. If it was that easy, we would be able to get it done in a couple of weeks. We are still finishing the show. We're still finishing the layers and sprinkling all of the magic on top of it and adding and finishing. So keep looking.
Not just bedazzles on the masks, everybody. It's going to be everywhere. You've got to keep paying attention. Vince, as we're wrapping this up, what would you like to say in closing? Anything?
I I don't think so. I mean, you all have covered how every time I watch the show, I see something new or I discover something new that I didn't, see before, and I know the show like really, really well. I feel so that yeah, I don't know. I hope people enjoy it. That's always our hope, and I hope they want to see it multiple times as well.
Absolutely. Becca, final thoughts as we're finishing this conversation.
I am so enamored and honored to be a part of this team with this group of people and to be able to do this through the good times and the adversity. And I think that I could not be more lucky to work with the people that I do. And I hope that that comes through in the shows. We just want to entertain, but we also want to be art. And therefore, support RE Drum Corps. Support all of the members that are out there that are kicking butt, because it is hot. It is unbelievably hot out there. And I could not be more impressed with our drum corps, but every drum corps that's out there, because they're doing this. It costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time and commitment, and don't be a hater. Love what everybody does, because it's fun to be supportive. Right. I'm really proud of all the drum corps out there.
Yeah, every one of those kids is doing everything they can out in the heat all summer long. We've all been there. A lot of us have been there, and we know how it is. So let's support them. Let's and go see Drum Corps live, everybody. I mean, this is what you need to do. You need to experience. Let the Mandarins blow your face off and enjoy their night. Shadow. What'd you call it? The
witching hour.
The witching hour. God, I can't remember that. Enjoy the witching hour with the Mandarins. It's such a cool idea, and it makes me want to go back to New Orleans so bad. I haven't been there in about a year and a half now, so you've inspired me to make another trip back to New Orleans, which is something we're never upset to have to get to do. So Becca and JW and Vince, thank you for talking to me. Thanks for your great work, and good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Marching Arts Education is the home of the Marching Roundtable podcast. We give you access to the top marching arts professionals through live webinars, podcasts, videos, interviews, and online coursework. With over 1,000 podcasts and hundreds of webinars and videos, there are hours of great professional development for you and your staff. Sign up for a membership to Marching Arts Education to get complete access to all webinars, videos, and podcasts, plus discounts on coursework. Many directors are using professional development funds through their school or boosters to make these resources available to their staff. Imagine what you could do with so many great new ideas from the top professionals in our activity. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and sign up for our newsletter to find out about the latest podcasts, webinars, and new content. Find all of this and sign up at marchingartseducation.com.